I used to think I was just one lucky trade away from turning everything around. Every time I blew up an account, I told myself, it's okay, I'll make it back next time. But that next time never came. I'd reload my account, swear I'd be smarter, more disciplined. But a few trades later, the same story repeated. Hope was my only strategy. It's dangerous, intoxicating feeling that this time, this one trade would be different. It's a quiet poison that numbs you to the reality of your losses, whispering that redemption is just around the corner. I would stare at the charts, not seeing patterns or signals, but seeing a roulette wheel. Green meant I was a genius. Red meant the market was rigged. There was no in-between, no process, just a raw, addictive gamble. I was a passenger in my own trading journey, clutching a lottery ticket and praying for the right numbers to appear. The worst part was the brief moments of clarity after a devastating loss, the moments where I knew I was wrong, that I was just gambling. But that clarity would fade, replaced by the siren call of the next opportunity, the next chance to erase all the mistakes with one heroic win. It was a vicious cycle, a self-inflicted wound that I kept reopening, convinced that this time it would magically heal. At one point, I was eating instant noodles and borrowing money just to keep trading. I wasn't chasing profits anymore. I was chasing redemption. But markets don't care about your feelings. They don't reward hope. They reward discipline. I learned that the hard way. The weight of my losses became so heavy that it crushed my ability to think clearly. Remember one specific night, sitting in front of my monitor, down more than I could afford to lose. The logical move was to cut the trade, accept the loss, and live to fight another day. But my account was already so damaged. What was another few $100s? Strange, unnerving calm washed over me. I had lost so much that the concept of losing more became abstract, almost meaningless. So I did something I'd never done before. I removed my stop loss. I walked away from the screen and just let it go. A practiced trader's call, letting it run, or more accurately, letting fate decide. I was surrendering control, not as a strategic choice, but as an act of complete and utter despair. It was the financial equivalent of closing your eyes while driving on a highway. In that moment, I wasn't a trader. I was a nihilist, convinced that my actions no longer mattered. The market would do what it would do, and I was just along for the ride. This wasn't about strategy. It was about emotional exhaustion. It was the final, desperate act of a trader who had nothing left to lose, except for the very last of his capital. When you trade out of desperation, every tick feels personal. You convince yourself that one big win will fix everything, your losses, your confidence, maybe even your life, but it never does. That night, I didn't sleep. I just stared at the ceiling, picturing the chart moving, a digital heartbeat for my financial ruin or salvation. It was a bizarre abdication of responsibility. When you've lost so much, the pain of each new loss diminishes. It's like a numbing agent for your financial senses. You start to think, well, I'm already down 50%. What's 60%? What's 70%? You begin to justify recklessness by telling yourself you have nothing left to lose. But you always do. You have your remaining capital, your mental health, and your future in the market. By letting fate decide, you're not just giving up on a trade. You're giving up on yourself. You are admitting that your own judgment, your own rules, and your own discipline are worthless. It's a profoundly self-destructive mindset. I had to face the ugly truth. This wasn't the market's fault. It was mine. I was the one who had abandoned my plan, my rules, my own self-respect as a trader. I started writing down every trade I made, not just the entries and exits, but why I took them. Over time, I noticed a painful pattern. I was trading emotions, not setups. No stop loss, no plan, just hope. That's when I realized there is no comeback trade. There's only consistency. You don't beat the market. You beat your own impulses. My trading journal became my confessional. The patterns were undeniable. Every catastrophic loss was preceded by a series of smaller, undisciplined trades. It was a slow bleed, punctuated by a Hail Mary pass that ended in disaster. The act of letting fate decide was the final symptom of a disease that had been festering for months, a complete lack of a system. I had no edge, no risk management, no psychological fortitude. I was a tourist in a war zone, and I was getting a predictable result. The realization was both crushing and liberating. It was crushing because I had to accept full responsibility for my failure. It was liberating because if I was the problem, I could also be the solution. The market wasn't a casino, and I wasn't its victim. It was a domaine professionnel, and I had been acting like a rank amateur. So now I followed 3 rules. Never trade with borrowed money. This is the first and most sacred rule. It's trading with money you can't afford to lose, whether it's from a credit card, a loan, or a friend. Transforms trading from a strategic business into a desperate, high-stakes gamble. It taints every decision with fear and desperation. When your rent is on the line, you can't think rationally. If you hold on to losers for too long, praying for a break-even, and you cut winners too short, terrified of giving back any small profit, it forces you to make emotional decisions because the consequences of being wrong are too severe. Using only your own risk-allocated capital ensures that you can approach the market with a clear head. Knowing that even a string of losses won't ruin your life is the foundation of longevity in professional trading. Your trading account should be funded with money that, if it were to disappear tomorrow, would not fundamentally alter your quality of life. This separation is not just a financial strategy. It is a psychological firewall that protects your decision-making process from the corrosive influence of fear. Treat every loss as tuition, not punishment. Every trader loses. The best traders in the world have losing trades, losing days, and even losing weeks. The difference is how they perceive those losses. A novice trader sees a loss as a personal failure, a mark against their intelligence, a punishment from the market gods. This perspective leads to revenge trading, anger, and self-doubt. A professional trader, however, sees a loss as a data point. It's a piece of feedback from the market, a price paid for an education. It's tuition. When you lose, you ask, did I follow my plan? If yes, then the loss was just the cost of doing business, a statistical inevitability in a game of probabilities. If no, then the loss is a valuable lesson in discipline. What was the mistake? Did I enter too early? Did I ignore my stop loss? By reframing losses as a learning opportunity, you remove the emotional sting and turn a negative event into a constructive one. You are not a victim. You are a student, and the market is your most brutally honest teacher. This mindset shift is a superpower. Protect capital above all else. This isn't just about not losing money. It's about preserving your ability to stay in the game. Your capital is your lifeblood as a trader. Without it, you are out of business. This means your primary job is not to make a profit, but to manage risk. Every decision should be filtered through the lens of capital preservation. Before you even think about how much you can make on a trade, you must know with absolute certainty how much you are willing to lose. This means using a stop loss on every single trade, without exception. It means risking only a small, predefined percentage of your account on any given position. It means knowing when to walk away, when the market conditions are not in your favor, or when you are not in the right mental state to trade. Profit is a byproduct of excellent risk management. Amateurs chase profits and are destroyed by risk. Professionals manage risk, and the profits take care of themselves. Your goal is not to have one great year, it's to have 20 good years. Because at the end of the day, hope doesn't build traders, discipline does.